Evening everybody, Steve Wellings here, winging it a little bit. Gennady Golovkin, Kell Brook has just finished, and Adam Smith and Ryan Scalio have jumped on the nut house with me. We're going to tweet out the link and all those good things in a minute if anybody wants to come on and have a chat with us. I'm pretty much speaking to nobody at the moment, but we'll get the YouTube link out there. And sorry guys, bit of a technical problem then. We're starting right now. Tomo in the chat there. Yeah, Adam, I'm going to come to you first, whatever we try and get the listeners on. Golovkin, I wasn't really impressed with him tonight. I don't know where the jab was for a start. He was winging away at the punches. He looked a little bit ragged, a little bit unorthodox. He's not the usual cool and calm Kazakhstani customer that we usually see. What did you make of it all?
Well, from a purely Golovkin point of view, and that's how I've watched the fight and approached the fight as a Golovkin fan, I think you'd have to be not disappointed, but have to downgrade your expectations and views of him. I came into the fight thinking it was an absolute killer and the best thing since sliced bread. But really, I think tonight he's been shown up a little bit for speed. That's the first thing. And Kell Brook, a welterweight. Or even if let's class him as a light middleweight has pushed him back, and we've not seen that before. He's been on our radar, or mine personally, since I don't know, just the one before the Proxer fight. So we're looking at about 15 fights, and that's kind of the worst you've seen him. Obviously, he's still won by knockout quite viciously. He's beat the other fella up, but we've seen weaknesses tonight. Paulie Malignaggi spoke about lack of head movement. We kind of knew that already, but that was shown up quite badly tonight. The speed was shown up. Brook was a lot faster than him. We kind of expected that. I'm not saying I'm surprised by it, but it was significant. When you viewed it, it was a significant disparity in the speed. And he's been pushed back by Kell Brook as well, which we've not seen. And he's caught him with some good shots. I know we've seen him hit before, but never really, maybe one in one round by Curtis Stevens, and then 2 rounds later another one. I mean, we've seen quite a few land on his chin tonight. It was an absolutely brilliant fight, I thought. I really enjoyed it. Fair play to Kell Brook, absolute fair play. There's plenty of hate out there for Brits that are on Eddie's team and chat a lot of shit. The build-up's been terrible, to be honest. It's not just hype and bullshit. There's been downright lies, to be fair. But Brook was superb, and the hat's off to him. Full credit to him. He's come out. He's absolutely gone for it. And he's ended up going out on his shield, to be honest. The end was obviously coming. It was a fair stoppage. I think the ref should have probably been looking more seriously at it at the time, but the corner stopped it. I noticed his eye was I've just rewatched round 1. His eye was definitely damaged in the first round. He was pouring at it straight away. It just looked reddened his right eye in the first round, and I said to the missus straight away, I says, there's something wrong with his eye. He wasn't cut, but there was something wrong with his eye. And then in the second and third round, I think it was second round, Brook was looking at he got caught on the right eye again, and he was looking over at the corner a couple of times as if to say, what's going on here? He was really distressed by it. So that's where the betting guru came in and got involved in play for it to last under 7 rounds. So that paid off. But yeah, I quite enjoyed it. It was a great fight. I wish I'd have really been there, to be honest. The atmosphere seemed cracking, and yeah, I think Brook's come out with a lot of credit, and it's going to be good for boxing because off the back of that, if I'm a middleweight, if I'm a Billy Joe Saunders, I think he's going to take more hope into a potential fight with Golovkin than he was yesterday, following that performance. But I'll let someone else speak.
Yeah, I was going to say to Ryan, actually, I think I agree with pretty much everything Adam says there. As I said at the beginning, whenever I was bluffing my introduction, that I just was crying out for Triple G to throw the jab, and he wasn't this stalking guy who moves people with the feet without even throwing punches. He seemed like he had to jump on Brook and throw a lot of shots and push him back and really get in his face, and he was missing really quite wildly with a lot of the shots, but in the end I think the pressure told and his physical strength told, and Brook went out on his shield. I'm going to give him a hell of a lot of credit. How did you see it, Ryan, technically playing out?
Yeah, I mean, Golovkin was so reckless. I guess he just figured he could, pretty much steamroll Brook, and that Brook couldn't hold up to his power, which eventually turned out to be true, even though, even though he didn't get knocked down. But I don't think it was going to last much longer. He was going to get stopped regardless of the corner ending it earlier than it inevitably would have been. But I think, I mean, when Golovkin threw the jab, he did have success with it. Definitely, um, I think he definitely messed up Brook's vision partly with that. But the good thing about Golovkin kind of looking a bit defensively vulnerable in this fight is that hopefully it'll make the other middleweights grow some balls and fight him. So, I mean, I know the WBA is going to order the purse bid for the Jacobs fight, and I really hope that happens because, I mean, that'd be quite a good fight, and then it would, finally get another pretty decent name on Golovkin's resume. And yeah, I mean, it wasn't Golovkin's best performance, I guess, just because of the mentality he took into the fight, where he figured that Brook couldn't phase him really with anything. I just wish he wouldn't take so many shots because he's 34 years old and you can't keep doing that. Eventually it's going to add up, and eventually you're not going to be able to take shots as well as you could before. So I hope he learns from this fight, not to be so reckless and not to be so gung ho about looking for the knockout.
Andy, I think Ryan makes some good points there. Actually, we've seen Triple G rely on his chin in the past, obviously against guys who couldn't hurt him. And I'm not saying Brook really hurt him, but he was relying on it a little bit too much tonight. I thought the fact that he has a good chin, it's not going to help with his longevity. And I just wanted to see him a little bit cuter in there tonight. I thought he just, we've been sold as he's this Iceman, he's this ice cold dude. Nothing will phase him. I even laughed myself when Eddie said about the crowd getting to him. I don't want to keep saying he was rattled, but he didn't seem like he was in full control and everything. The previous 30-odd fights, he's always seemed in full control, but he was taking a few shots tonight, through choice, obviously, but how did you see it?
How's my sound, mate? Okay?
Yep, sound fine, man.
Well, first off, massive respect to Kell Brook. He took his licks and he still came back fighting. Massive second round by him as well, actually. Showed some balls. He did say after the fight, I think it was the second one, he said that his eye sockets probably went. But on Golovkin, the jab wasn't really there. I mean, sometimes when he did land it, he was pretty kind of potent with it, but he was swinging for the fences, right for the off. Wasn't impressed by his performance. Maybe just underestimated Brook. Maybe he just thought he's okay as a welterweight coming up. I can just walk through him, end it whenever I want. And that's what we were saying last week. That's what I kind of thought. I thought he would just basically toy with him and then take him out whenever he wanted to. But it just went to go and show that Brook's skills maybe is going to be bigger up at the good up at the higher weights. I think I like seeing him doing it 154 after this if he's going to keep fighting. But Golovkin, as you say, mate, was not impressed. Swing for the fences, just basically putting his face out there. We all know he's basically done this in the past. He's just going to put his face out there and just going to let himself get hit sometimes. But as Ryan was saying, at his age, these punches add up. If you take into account as well, he's had, was it 350, 400 amateur fights? How much punishment they take then? It all adds up at the end of the day. But, we can't take away as well as, okay, he's won one round, probably two. I heard Eddie Hearn say that WBC apparently confirmed that Brook was ahead on the scorecards at the time of the stoppage.
Mm-hmm.
But I find that a wee bit kind of bullshit. I thought Golovkin was winning that fight with a couple of points, but no, you can say Brook had one good round, showed some balls, and he did stand there and try and trade it sometimes. But then I did think he could. I thought at one point he was really going to get stopped in the first round with that brutal left hook to the body. Actually, it looked like he
took it well, didn't he? Really took it well.
Oh, I mean, he took most of the shots well until obviously the round in which he actually got badly hurt, and then Golovkin followed him up. You just see that the hands dropped, sagged, the legs movement wasn't there as that was just basically kind of hobbling about the ring and stuff. And on the stoppage alone, I did think at the time it was slightly premature, but I would hate to think that they maybe had some sort of kind of pre-arranged plan that if you're taking punishment and stuff, then we're just going to stop the fight. Fair. It's a fair point because the guy's fighting a murderous puncher. He's getting well paid for it, so you let him come back and fight another day. But You know, you heard some of the folk in the crowd and stuff, they were pissed off with Brendan Ingalls. So, you know, he's got to do what he's got to do to protect his fighter, because I think if that fight had went on another 20, 30 seconds, I think Brook probably could have been, you know, lying on the canvas at that point. So, you know, I would probably say it's a fair stoppage.
Yeah, my initial instinct was that it was fair enough, and I always usually go by that. Afterwards, you can have a look at it and say, oh, well, this could have happened or that could have happened. But I thought at the time it was fair enough. Alex Morris is on the call now. Alex, obviously they brought Triple G over for a multitude of reasons, a payday, people aren't fighting him, all these. We've gone through all this stuff before. But one of the main reasons was to introduce him to another market, to the UK market, and there were people beforehand picking Brook, obviously a lot of casual supporters and all that. How do you think Golovkin's reputation will look now? Say with UK fans, someone who hadn't seen him before, maybe someone who was even picking Brook, didn't really know much about this supposed monster. How do you think his performance has come across to people? Will they be really impressed? Will they think he's a bit shoddy? What type of impression has he left in London tonight?
I think that to that fan, I think he's probably left a less than impressive, idea to them, because he was even being sold, by Eddie Hearn and the likes when they were trying to build up the fact that Kell could win this, or Johnny Nelson. They all used the same sort of thing. Or Golovkin's just a plodder. Golovkin's just power. So all he has. He's not technically brilliant. Even though they say he's pound for pound #1 as well. But that's beside the point. And I think that tonight, that's all he really did. Is he went in there and he fired off, just fucking hellacious shots. He was going in there. I've never seen Golovkin really ever wind up on his shots before. I mean, he usually just seems to throw them quite naturally, I think, from, a very balanced stance. But he was really fucking winding up on some of those left hooks. I've never really seen that before. And I mean, I don't know if that was frustration. Easily could have been, because Kell, had good head movement. He tied up a little bit on the inside. His jab was very good. But, I don't think Golovkin would be that frustrated after a round. I mean, he had great success in the first round. It just seemed a very strange performance from him, and I think that Eddie's spin and all the rest of it they'll just make Golovkin out to be, again, as just some plodder, just some guy who comes forward and throws a lot of punches and has got a really big dig, and he's not that good of a boxer. But I hope people obviously continue to watch his fights. They probably won't, because the only chill and British fighter and watch England and fucking cheer for the Queen and all that shit. But
Will Griggs on fire.
Yeah, Sweet Caroline and all the rest of it, But yeah, I think you can't really say much about Golovkin's performance tonight, because he was expected to win and he battered Kell about. He had, Kell had one really good round of success, should I say, and he performed really well, and I've got to give credit to Kell for that, because obviously, I was one of these people that just thought he's coming for the payday. He's getting frustrated at welterweight because Eddie's fucking about, or he's not getting the big fights that Kell possibly wanted, and he just thought, fuck it, there's this option that's come up now at middleweight, because Eubank shat it, and he'll fight this guy for 7 million quid or whatever it was he was making. And I thought he'd come in and lay down, but he didn't. He fucking came and he gave as good as he got for the first 2 rounds, I think, and then it just all started going to pot because he was fucking getting smashed to bits. And Golovkin's just accurate. That's the thing that people need to pay attention to. Is he's not just a plodder who walks forward with power. He's accurate as fuck, and that eye on Kell is proof of that.
Do you know what, though, Alex? I thought that he looked tonight at times exactly the opposite of what you just said. I thought he did look like a plodder on tonight's fight, and his accuracy was fairly poor, to be honest with you. But obviously, you've laid out the reasons. Putting Golovkin to one side, guys. I'll open this up to the panel. We've spoke about Brook. He's obviously not a middleweight. He insists he's not a welterweight. I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see him going back down there, but with Errol Spence hanging around, we might not see him down too soon. He said afterwards the sort of happy medium will be the 154-pound division. Anybody, is that where we see him next, going down to light middle?
Definitely. Errol Spence is going to be a reasonably tough sell to the UK market. It's going to be one of them typical high risk and medium reward, or even low reward. So, no, I think middleweight. And if anyone was watching the Sky broadcast, Paulie Malignaggi made a great point, and he's made a few. He said the 154 division is probably the most talented, but without an actual superstar, obviously going away from the Ginger Mexican, but away from them, you know, it's if Kell Brook was to be added to that mix, it'll be really some really interesting matchups, and it'll be interesting to see how they try and duck each other.
Any thoughts on that, Andy, on where Kell Brook goes next? He's obviously got a lot of credit in the bank now. If he had pulled off the upset, and I must admit, at times I don't know. I was starting to think, whoa, hang on a minute here. We've got something maybe unfolding a little bit. I will be honest. I was not for more than a few fleeting seconds, but saying that, even though Brook didn't get the victory, he's come out with the credit. He's going to have a lot of offers now, you would hope. I mean, are we looking at Amir Khan? Maybe is he going to come crawling out the woodwork again?
Well, you know what Amir's like, mate. He's a bit obsessive, you know. He will be basically putting the name around a bit, but I don't think Khan will take that fight, in all honesty. 154, I think, is definitely going to be his next stop. I just don't think he's got. I mean, Brook, he's got a solid dig about him, but I don't really see him hanging with some of the bigger punches up at middleweight. But no saying there wouldn't be some good fights from up there. You know, I think there would be, but definitely 154. Now, as I say, you don't know just how bad this eye is, but you know, if you look at it, even though it's no packed with stars, so to speak, it's pretty heavily with talent. You've got Andrade, you know, Trout's okay, I suppose. You've got the two Charlo brothers, Cotto if he wants to hang around about there, Lara obviously as well. So there is some good fights. I think probably the one thing you'll probably be looking at maybe is, you know, again, it says it depends how bad the eye is, but I think you should be looking at maybe fight Liam Smith. I think if he loses to Canelo, I think the Liam Smith fight could be made.
I don't see how that happens though, like politically.
No.
I want to see Brook fight Canelo.
Yeah, I do.
That wouldn't surprise me. If Canelo is looking for another opportunity to duck Golovkin, he'd take on, Golovkin's leftovers.
Yeah,
I mean, I think it'd be a really good fight.
It would be. I think Kell could probably beat him.
It fits Canelo's, life strategy as well. Someone not called Gennady and someone that is not proven at light middleweight. Or middleweight.
What will Canelo be thinking watching that fight tonight? I mean, obviously he'll be seeing it. And what's he seeing? What type of flaws that he can expose? Do you think that the Mexicans won't fuck about again? This is something that will be on the radar a little bit sooner than next year, September? Or?
Well, the short answer to that is no. I don't think he's in any rush whatsoever. But I would reiterate the point I made earlier. If I'm any potential Triple G opponent, including Canelo, watching that, they should be thinking that it's a more winnable fight than what they thought it was yesterday. That includes Billy Joe. That includes the one who should have been fighting him tonight. That includes the Ginger Mexican, because he's shown that he's been shown up a bit for speed. I think he was shown up pretty badly for speed at times. He's been pushed back by someone that's nowhere near the right weight. Which is, again, something that we've not seen so often in a Triple G fight. We might have seen it for a couple of incidents in a 6-rounder against Stevens or Martin Murray for one round, but Brook did it in 2 or 3 different rounds consecutively. So yeah, if I'm a potential Triple G opponent, I'm more confident now than what I was this morning.
I think
who did it say that the ranking Brook would beat Canelo?
I do.
I think he would actually. Because if you look at Canelo, man, he's the one who's really got to get himself set. I mean, if you just go back and look at the Floyd fight, actually, every time Floyd moved, he threw a punch. He was basically rooted to the spot, or he was over on his own front foot and stuff. So basically, I know that about Canelo. He's got to kind of stand and he's got to kind of get you stand in front of him. I think Brook would give a wee bit of movement. Whether they could do it for 12 rounds is another matter. But I'll be honest with you, I think even on that performance tonight, I think Canelo's going to be slightly more confident actually at beating Golovkin.
The thing is, I see there was definitely some vulnerability shown from Golovkin tonight, but I don't see any fighter at 154 through even 168 that can actually see those vulnerabilities, think of a plan of how to capitalize on it, and still withstand his punching for 12 rounds. Not going to knock him out. No one's going to knock him out.
I don't think Golovkin would approach a fight with Canelo the same way that he'd approach, this fight. I think he'd be a lot more responsible, against Lemieux.
The one thing I would say is, and I know we don't like the man, but I think tonight has shown, and I've mentioned it, speed could be the key to unlock Golovkin, and that's something that Mr. Eubank has got, whether we love him or hate him. So, that could be a potential route in there. Going back to Canelo, my problem is with Canelo, for anyone who's fighting him, you're wasting your time if you're doing it in America, especially over on the West Coast. You're wasting your time because he's the most favoured fighter scorecards wise, possibly in the world at the minute. You're just not going to beat him on the cards.
It's funny, actually, Adam, you should mention Eubank. Someone sent in a question earlier. I think it was Michael Evans. I can't find it now. But he mentioned Eubank, and he said Eubank would maybe be fancying it a little bit more, especially the uppercut.
Yeah, fair point.
Do we think that...
No, Alex, I was just going to say, I was wondering, actually, Alex, who sounds worse tonight, you or Dominic Ingle?
I don't know, I'm a bit... chesty and coffee.
He mugged himself off tonight. He's mugged himself off. He's made himself look a twat. He didn't need to do all this to the crowd and that. He's made himself look a twat. The crowd were booing. I think they were just booing, an anticlimax to the fight and
they were booing him.
And then he made it worse for himself.
At the end, they were booing him. Yeah.
Yeah, but he was encouraging them to boo.
Yeah.
When he tried to speak after the fight and that, when he kind of that's when the crowd started kind of booing him. He turned around, as you say, he started
casual, he was never going to win their support because he stopped the fight, and they'll still believe that Kell would have won that fight because he told them so. If the fight went on.
It's a good victory for boxing in general, I think, and it's ended out about right because no one's got seriously hurt unless his eye is damaged properly. But we have been dealt the most amount of bullshit ever this week. We've been dealt it from Sky and Eddie.
It's contradictory bullshit as well that really winds me up.
It's gone right. I can accept a bit of the car salesman, and I can accept a bit of bias from Sky because towards the Brits, that's what they're there to do. This week we've had downright lies, and I can't accept that.
Well, we put a message on the Facebook page earlier in the week, actually. Who do you think spouted the most bullshit this week? I know Johnny Nelson was coming up with a few peaches, Kid Galahad, Eddie Hearn, Spencer Fearon's, we know he's a regular Bellew of the Week offender. Adam Smith as well, I think, is one that gets away with it. He talks a lot of shit. Not you, Smido, but the other Adam.
I talk loads of shit.
The fake Adam Smith as well, I think he's a culprit.
I thought the commentary setup was refreshing tonight. I'm not going to say it was better or good. Well, it was better, but I'm not going to say it was great, but it was refreshing.
Do you know what I thought, Adam? I thought the whole thing was a bit confused. I don't know what they were going for tonight. Did you notice different people kept on appearing in different places? Like you'd have Macklin on commentary, then all of a sudden he'd appear with the woman on his own, then he'd appear with that Ed, then Johnny would appear with Dave Caldwell. Caldwell disappeared. They were all over the place.
That woman was smoking.
Yeah.
Think how much money they must have wasted on all that fucking commentary team, and when they could have got a decent opponent for the likes of fucking Callum Smith, or fucking Paul Smith, or Gavin McDonald, or fucking any cunt on that undercard. It's
just
fucking atrocious.
I mentioned, I tweeted earlier, Haskins against Hall. Now, that's a world title, apparently chief support. There was zero previous footage of either of them fighting, particularly fighting each other, as has happened before. The build up to that was just screamed that neither of these fighters were matchroom. I know that apparently Stuart Hall is matchroom, but I'm not counting him. He's 36. They've signed him almost just because they can. Neither of them are matchroom, golden boys. And you could tell. You really could tell. It was shambles.
Yeah, what about the undercard guys? I mean, what are we thinking? All in all, I've seen worse undercards, I'll be honest. I mean, you know what you're getting with Haskins.
I enjoyed Casemiro beating the fuck out of Edwards, to be honest.
Yeah, I thought that was quite a good one.
Yeah.
Go on. I was just going to say, it was the very definition of, man versus boy, really, wasn't it? It was just the experience of Casemiro. He was just like he was having a laugh.
Yeah, you could see the experience.
He wasn't phased. He was never phased by that, man.
No,
and he was in he was in the killer position almost up throughout, and Edwards was running around and running out of ideas. To be fair, but yeah, as Alex said, we have had worse. Someone asked me if the undercard was any good yesterday, and I said, we've paid for worse before, mate, and that's true.
Martin J. Ward actually wasn't boring for once.
Yeah.
He actually looked pretty decent, nice and sharp. A bit more pop behind his punches than usual. So
I can't remember who said it in commentary. I think it might have been Macklin, but they basically I think it might have been even Dave Coldwell, but they basically said that Townend was, made for him essentially, because he was this guy that didn't have much head movement, didn't have much defense at all really, and he was there to be hit and made Ward look good. But Fairfax Ward, he stepped up to the plate and actually, put on a performance for once, and he was an enjoyable watch, and he actually looked decent. So.
And it wouldn't be a show in Britain if we didn't have a fight with terrible scorecards, and whoever can give Haskins, I think it was 117. I mean, what's going on there, honestly?
It's obviously he's got the benefit of a close round in that fight, but that was a fucking snooze fest.
I mean, I didn't mind it, to be honest, Andy, because it was a decent clash of styles, and obviously the momentum, we thought, obviously not the judges, was with Stuart Hall going into the second half of the fight. So it wasn't gripping, but
I stopped watching halfway through, to be honest.
I didn't, to be fair, and I normally would, being the casual.
What about the man himself, Smigger? I didn't catch this fight right at the beginning. I only logged on halfway through.
He was vicious, mate. He was vicious.
Back in contention.
Was that a world title eliminator? Was that an eliminator?
That should have been a world title fight. That should have been a world title fight. He was like a god. It was an Adonis in that ring the other night. Honest to God, he was on point. His jab was sharp. His right hand, the left hook to the liver. I mean, Jesus, man, he needs to get a rematch with Abraham or a third fight with Abraham. But he was up at light heavyweight. Yeah, he was up at light heavyweight this time. I mean, the guy, he's unlimited potential. Honest to God, Kovalev's going to be shitting bricks when he fucking faces him.
I was trying to think to myself, is there any similar fighter around the world that has had 2 or 3 goes at world level, not quite made it, and then fights in a 6-rounder? Now, we was fighting in a 6-rounder, and the commentary team in the first round mentioned world title aspirations or world title potential, whatever, 2 or 3 times in the first round. We're fighting a fucking 6-rounder. Like, who does that? Like, there might be a 10-rounder in some American, or Hassan Mandam. He's lost loads of fights. He might go back to Paris for a 10-rounder, but not a 6-rounder at 5:30 on a Saturday.
Paul Smith hasn't made super middleweight since the second half of Abraham fight, and they still talk him up of being a super middleweight and getting a title shot there. But you see, and he's been in these fucking 4-rounders, 6-rounders, or whatever. And then you see Callum Smith again in 2 tune-ups. He still makes weight. He can still make 168. Look at the fucking size of him. He's fucking dwarfs Paul. Yet Smig has to come in fucking fat as fuck every single time, make no fucking effort, and just look abysmal.
Well, I was watching it, and I had your voice ringing in my ears, Alex, because I was thinking to myself, Paul Smith's best win, Tony Dodson.
Yeah.
Like, that is a fact.
Well, this guy might be in his top 5.
Well, if he asks people, Liverpool, Abraham's his best one.
Alright. 7 out of 24 rounds, mate. 7 out of 24 rounds.
What about Callum? I'm a Callum detractor. I don't think he's as good as people think he is. And I am also one of these strange people who actually think that Badu Jack isn't quite as bad as people think he is. And I would pick Badu Jack to beat Callum Smith, to be honest with you. But is it a case of just literally fighting down to the opponents for Callum? Because he did okay. Malignaggi didn't seem impressed, and then all of a sudden he caught himself on when he was giving his assessment and realised, I better stick to the script here. He didn't seem like he was too impressed with Callum. I know it was a tune-up thing, it was a warm-up, whatever. Can't they just move him on towards this world title? What's the hold-up? WBC, isn't it?
Well, he's already got the fucking belt, hasn't he?
He's waiting for the unification to see if that's going to get called between DeGale and Jack. But as you say, mate, I think Jack has improved since that short knockout he had. I forget who he was facing again, but I'm not talking about with Callum Smith. I mean, at the same time, say he does get the world title shot. I mean, has he fought the opponents that's actually going to set him up for that title shot? I mean, has he got the physical gifts? Has he fought people? I mean, Fielding I've never been impressed with. I mean, he's Commonwealth level, maybe even British title level. Rabras was always a tough guy. We knew he was what he was about, but he's European level. You know, we've really got, you said, you know, Serge Locker, okay, he's mixed at world title level, but he's never beat a top opponent to actually prove or even say that he's world level. You know, so we didn't know where he's at. So I think he's going to be getting at least, if he can't, if the Gale fight doesn't happen with Jack, then they've really got to be pushing for that one. But he'll need to travel for it as well.
But he can't be left waiting around for ages, because if these two do have their fucking unification fight, which I think they will, fucking Callum won't be having a world title fight to at least next year. You know, maybe sort of like March, April time.
Well, he is only young though.
Well, but what's he gonna do in that meantime? Keep fighting Bin Man?
The short answer to that is yes, because they can. We don't want it, but
they keep acting like he's fucking already won the belts. They act like he's a fucking unified champ.
Yeah, that's the problem I have, Alex. Sorry to cut you off. That's the problem I have. You see, he seems good. He seems like he's got potential, but I just think they're talking him up beyond his station at the moment.
My only thought on him tonight, obviously he was fighting a limited kid, was I just had visions of Callum Smith in the future, probably not this year, next year, or the year after, somewhere down the line. I just see him getting knocked out by a hook. I just see him hooking with a hooker at some stage and just getting knocked over, and possibly at light heavyweight.
I mean, if he's good enough, stick him in with fucking Zerdo. Stick him in with... Make an offer to DeGale. Make a fucking offer to any cunt. It doesn't matter. If he's good enough, make the fucking fight. If he's going to win a world title against anyone in that division, according to Eddie and according to Sky, just make a fucking fight. Instead of making him fight bin men for the next fucking 6 months, or 9 months, or however long it takes. It's embarrassing.
Fasten your seatbelt, because the last scenario that you describe, Alex, is the most likely one.
Yeah.
How about Groves?
Yeah, Groves as well.
Yeah, I mean, if the unification happens, then like a potential fight between Jack and Smith wouldn't happen until like next May, or maybe even later, based on how like inactive some guys get. So, I mean, him versus Groves is a big fight and a good fight.
But Ed wouldn't risk it. No chance.
Well, exactly.
Not when he can wait out his mandatory. He just wouldn't risk it.
Ryan, what do you think about Smith's potential, skill-wise? I mean, how does he pass the eye test for you? He's a big dude, really.
I mean, I think he does pass the eye test, but when he fights like these level of opponents, I mean, I guess, you know, he doesn't look as good as he could. You know, you see him going to the ropes and, you know, letting the guy throw a bit. You know, whereas, you know, if he had that, like he said in his post-fight interview, if he had that like sense of danger, maybe, you know, he wouldn't be doing stuff like that. But I mean, I think he's competitive with, you know, the guys like Surdo and Jack, and I mean, he'd beat like D. Carolus or Zoiga for that regular crap, but I think he beat Groves too. But I mean, him versus DeGale, you know, I think DeGale would beat him. I think him versus I think Jack's just the more polished, more experienced fighter, and Smith is a bit more basic. But I mean, I think he hangs with all of them. As far as beating them, I'm not sure about that.
Yeah, if anybody wants to come on the call, you may give us a shout quickly, because we're going to discuss for a little bit longer, and then we're going to hook it, because don't forget we have the normal podcast on Sunday evening where we'll be dissecting this with the guys and whoever else wants to come on. Just looking down the rest of the undercard, anybody shout out? Gavin McDonnell, I heard that he looked terrible. I'm assuming he won.
Yeah, 78-76. That was the score. I guess the referee score.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was a Nicaraguan kid that's 18 years old, 6-2, and it was kind of like a similar situation to, I think it was last year, Cal Yafai fought a Nicaraguan that was like young, and he actually got a pretty hard fight from this Nicaraguan kid. So, I mean, I don't know, it wasn't televised at least, so.
You expect more though, don't you? I mean, from someone like, I mean, Gav McDonald, I don't think any of us really rate Gav McDonald that high.
Right.
But it's just you expected him to beat a fucking 18-year-old that's pretty basic by all accounts.
Yeah, I mean the excuse would probably be like, oh, he got some good rounds in the bank, blah blah blah. But at the same time, like you struggled with 18-year-olds kids, so
Well, he seems to struggle in every fucking fight he's in. I can't remember. Like, I think his last fight he actually looked decent. Apparently, I can't remember if I even watched it. But who did he fight last?
the Panamanian.
Jorge Sanchez.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah, that's right. It was one of the WBA international or one of them things, wasn't it? He fought
yeah.
for, I think.
He looked decent in that, and I mean, fair enough. But every other fight I've seen him in, he just looks fucking abysmal. Struggles like fuck.
And what about Kid Galahad? He's back, obviously. Eddie's got him onto this show. Can we see this being a more regular thing? Do you think he'll go back with Mick, or those bridges burnt? Is he hunting down maybe Quigg or something? What are they going to do with him?
Well, he says he wants Rigondeaux or Daenerys next, apparently.
Well, at least somebody wants Rigondeaux. I mean, if he's going to run towards him while everyone's running away, that's fair enough. I wouldn't mind that now. Any word on how he looked or anything in his fight? I know it wasn't televised.
He knocked the guy out in the second round, didn't he? So, you know, what can you say about it? I mean, it's just ridiculous he was even on the card in the first place, if you ask me. I mean, Eddie Hearn piping up a few months ago about, he, completely against fucking drugs in the sport. He never wants fighters that have been convicted of drugs on his cards, and here we go. Kid Galahad coming along, getting a spot on a fucking pay-per-view undercard. It's just embarrassing.
What type of pay-per-view numbers do you think they'll have done tonight? I'd say it'd be pretty healthy. Within the sort of range of Anthony Joshua numbers, Eddie will be laughing all the way to the bank.
Absolutely, they really ramped up the fucking hype this week, didn't they? I mean, they really sold it, and you could see, the casual interest really growing, and all those little polls on Twitter that they did, obviously Sky polls, it was like, really close, like 55-45 to Golovkin or something ridiculous. So there was really a real big casual interest in this, I think. And I don't know if it will reach Anthony Joshua numbers because he seems to be fucking breaking all the records or getting close to it at least.
My God.
Andy, I stuck with the Sky Sports commentary and feed in the end.
It's
HBO,
horrific.
yeah, exactly. HBO are obviously doing their own feed as well. Hopkins and I think Lampley are about. We all know that on the HBO podcast, Mulvaney and Eric Raskin are very high on Triple G. They're putting a lot of money behind the likes of Triple G at the moment, whereas they're taking money out of the sport at the same time. How did they come across? I mean, was it business as usual for those guys? Our product has won again, or what was the general feeling from Lampley and those boys?
They gave Brook a lot of massive props and stuff. They did think. I think I was talking about the scorecards. Eddie Hearn says that Mauricio Solomon says that Brook was ahead in the fight. Lederman actually had, I think it was 3-1 to Brook at the time of the stoppage, the fifth round stoppage.
Yeah.
I think it was. Yeah, I mean, obviously they're high on Triple G and stuff, but they just basically called it as a sort. Basically, I mean, there was not really much hype and stuff. I don't think. Just basically they were giving Brook a lot of props. They were kind of actually even surprised. I think sometimes that he was willing to stand in there at times and actually bang it. And as it says, probably I think Lampley even mentioned this. I can't remember, man. I've been fucking sitting having a few beers and that, but.
Did they ever suggest that Kell was hurt, if Golovkin was hurt at all?
First round to the body. I think I don't know if they mentioned about Triple G potentially being buzzed in the second round, but it was just the way he came out the third round in complete killer mode and stuff. But again, obviously they were weighing heavily on, like say, people in the past, like Jose Napolis got up fighting Carlos Monzon and Ray Robinson, Carmen Basilio, and Henry Armstrong against Garcia, and all these type of names was getting thrown out there. So they were getting a wee bit of a big push in that as well. But they obviously they looked at the Porter fight. They did, they were actually quite high on that performance. Actually, listening to Bernard Hopkins anyway about it. But I think they would have been quite surprised by Brook actually, because I don't think many people actually, even from the American side of the pond, that wouldn't actually give much of a chance.
We're hoping to get Ben Thorns on. I think he was at the arena tonight, but he hasn't jumped on the call just yet. We're going to wrap it up in a minute, guys. Andy, while you were mentioning that actually about Kell suggesting that Golovkin was hurt, he said, I know he was hurt. You can tell all the little things in there, his eyes or whatever it was, his legs buckled a little bit. Do you think that Golovkin was maybe not hurt? That's too strong. Maybe stunned or anything in there tonight?
No. I think he slightly was just kind of like slightly stunned because if you look at it, he actually then was like, all right, okay, I can't come to the ring and bang it out of me.
I think he felt it a couple of times,
Yeah, definitely. I think he definitely felt it. As I say, Ryan said it's not showing that it's a concern. He's just wanting to kind of little, Brook's not a massive puncher, especially at middleweight, but he's obviously got enough pop to kind of get enough respect and stuff. But even at the same time, saying that, Triple G never, I don't think, really even respected his punching power because he just kept walking forward, straight lines, negated the jab a fair bit, and just basically swung in massive left hooks and wide right hands and stuff. So again, it was pretty poor from Triple G. Maybe there was Seb there 2 months back, basically on this podcast, basically kind of slating Triple G, telling him he's nothing more than a B level operator and stuff. So. You never know. Maybe Seb's onto the right thing here.
Yeah, Ryan, I think Triple G started throwing the left hook to try and negate Brook's jab because I thought Brook was getting the jab off pretty well early on. We all know he has a good jab, and I think the stat was that Golovkin and Brook were the two best jabbers in the sport. But putting that to one side, actually, Ryan, the question I was going to ask you was, beforehand, a lot of people seem to think that Brook was the number one in the welterweight division, but other people were taking issue with that. I know it's a bit of a roundabout sort of question, but given Brook's performance tonight, does that sort of give us any more indication as to whether he is better at welterweight than the likes of your Porters? Obviously, he's beaten him, your Thurmans, all these other type of guys.
I mean, maybe, but I think the bottom line is that he'd only ever beaten Sean Porter, and aside from that, he doesn't have any top wins at welterweight. And I think now I definitely don't think he's going back to welterweight. So it's pretty hypothetical, but I mean, if you look at the rest of the division, it's not like a bunch of guys have great wins right now. I mean, even Thurman's beaten Porter. Brook already beat Porter. Spence doesn't have a top win yet, so I mean, it's kind of slim pickings in terms of who's got the best wins at welter. I mean, Pacquiao's still there and Bradley too. So.
Yeah, I don't think you can say Brook catching a beating at fucking middleweight can really elevate his standing at welterweight. Even if he, does go back down there, I don't think it really matters at all. I mean, it shows that he's got balls and it shows he's got a lot of heart, which is what he did show tonight. But nothing really about his standing at 147. To me, I just don't think he will be able to make 147 anymore. Because he put on so much fucking timber for this fight. I think just to emphasize the hype, I think, and just try and sell this as he's bigger than Golovkin. I think to prove that you can put on as much timber as you want, but that you fought at the weight properly and settled in at the weight, it doesn't matter. You're still gonna get your head kicked in. Like I had tweeted before. I said Brook could fucking put on enough muscle to go up to 175 and outweigh Kovalev. Kovalev's still going to kick his fucking head in.
Where do we see Golovkin going next then? Obviously, he was calling for the fight. I suppose the answer we should be happy with is I'll fight anyone, but there's something really hollow and unsatisfactory about that. I always want fighters to specifically name and shame people, but that saying I'll fight everyone sounds good in theory, but I want the names. And I know he said he wanted to fight Saunders. Yeah, okay, we can see that. Canelo's off in the distance. Will Eubank fancy it? I believe Danny Jacobs. He had a nondescript win, to say the least, on Friday night. I wasn't really too impressed, but Mora was pretty poor. We'll discuss that obviously on Sunday night. I mean, where do you think Triple G is going to go? Yeah, where is he going to go, or where would you like to see him go, Alex, next?
Well, Canelo, obviously, but that's not going to happen. Either Billy Joe or Eubank. I think that Billy Joe has got that technical ability to, probably peel away some more of that armor of Golovkin's, and maybe we can see a bit more to Golovkin's game. But again, I think that he just gets overwhelmed because, as we saw in the Eubank fight, I think that, and even in the Andy Lee fight, I think that Saunders just dies towards the end of the fight almost. He just really shuts down, and I think that Golovkin won't let him do that. He'll just, fucking rush him down and spark him out if he has to.
Well, the WBA is going to order the Jacobs fight.
Oh, yes.
So, I mean, if Jacobs wants it, then I think it'll happen. And I mean, I think he can get it. I think he can get enough money now to justify, not ducking.
Yeah, I read a tweet from, I think, some American press saying that HBO won't back it. They won't put the money in for a Golovkin versus Jacobs fight. So
yeah, I'm not really sure. I mean, they could put a pay-per-view. I mean, the numbers wouldn't be that great, but if they had to make the fight, who knows?
Shep, you jumped on in the nick of time there. I was just about to call a close. So, are you jumping on to praise the monster? Are you a little bit dissatisfied? Obviously, I suppose, first of all, Brook, massive credit.
I'm absolutely... I don't know. I've got no positive feelings at all. It's really weird. I feel completely empty after all of that. It's very, very strange. I had an accumulator on tonight. I've got 7 of the 8 of them right. I just need a Gonzalez KO later to win about 300 quid, and I'm not happy at all. The build-up, the Sky commentary, which I had to turn off about halfway through the 5th round, and it was just, I don't know. If you closed your eyes and watched that, it was as if Golovkin was out on his feet for about 3 of the 5 rounds. It was but my wife ran into the room because I told her that Golovkin was coming on. She's about the only boxer that she knows who he is. And she knew he was fighting Brook because she'd been to the show last year against the Gavin show. And she suddenly heard this, and Brook comes back with a huge shot. And she ran in expecting Golovkin, to be flat on his back. And then what she saw was Brook sort of hitting gloves, and then Golovkin punching him and him going staggering halfway across the ring. And then Carl Froch shouting about the entire time, he's not a middleweight, after they've spent every single interview for the last 2 weeks has been insisting that he's a phenomenal middleweight and he makes the weight unbelievably well. And, he'll be better in every way at 160. And the minute he gets stopped, it's every excuse under the sun. It really annoyed me. And I'm now getting tweets, all over the place, basically just regurgitating these excuses. He was up on the cards. He got unlucky with the eye injury, as if it happened from a thumb or something, or Golovkin used his head. It's really annoyed me, and it's taken all the pleasure out of it. And Charlie Edwards got knocked out tonight, and that should have been one of the greatest moments of my life, but it's been ruined by the Sky commentary. Why they had Froch, sorry, I'm rambling a bit, but why they had Froch in the main event, I've got no idea. He's just absolutely useless. I think he's admitted himself that he doesn't even particularly follow boxing. It just seems bizarre to me why they didn't have Macklin or someone like. Well, actually, to be honest, Paulie was pretty bad in the main event.
He was good throughout the night, wasn't he? He was good throughout the rest of the night, but on the Brook fight, he just seemed to find every excuse he could to slate what GGG was doing. He would say, but GGG doesn't have any head movement. Oh, he's not doing this. Kell can capitalize doing this. It's just, well, Kell's getting his fucking head kicked in, mate. Try and comment on that.
I think what's weird about Paulie is that he's usually fantastic, but he seems to have vendettas against a few people in the sport. Like Pacquiao's an obvious example, but there's a few others, and it seems like he's got this thing where he's been saying for years, Golovkin has no head movement, he's really beatable, and he gets every time Golovkin wins, Paulie just digs his heels in more and more and more and more. And tonight did you hear that? I don't know if you've repeated this before, but he said Paulie scored the first round a 10-10. And Brook got staggered across the ring, and I thought it was over. Do you remember when he took those shots and he just went staggering like a pissed up guy? And I thought, fucking hell, this is horrible. Like, this is a guy, way out of his depth physically against a much stronger opponent. And to his credit, he came back and sort of regrouped. But Paulie scored that first round even. It's unreal. There's an argument the first round was a 10-8 to Golovkin, even though Brook didn't go down. Absolutely mental. Yeah, sorry, that's all I wanted to say, really. Just the Sky just completely sapped all the enjoyment out of that for me. I was having a great time up until the main event. Haskins was tremendous. Really enjoyed that. Hope they get a trilogy going.
That was another fight, though. That was another fight where Paulie was scoring 10-10 rounds. I was going to say to you, actually, Andy, about Paulie in the main event. He did, from an early point, sort of say, he kept on shouting about Golovkin. You know, I said this before, he's got no head movement, he struggles with speed, etc., etc. Is this something that we've heard from Paulie on numerous occasions? I don't really follow what he says, to be honest with you, too much.
I never listened to him, mate. I was watching the HBO podcast, and if usually as well with his fights being American, and that probably watch with Showtime as it is anyway. But so I really don't know. I mean, you know what Paulie's like. Paulie just kind of fits a narrative. You know, he would just basically go over the company line, but you know he can call fights as well at the same time. But says I wasn't really listening to what Sky were saying tonight because there's what shit was just saying there actually. See, during the week I was actually starting to feel like I did for like Pacquiao Mayweather, just getting fatigued with the sport again for some odd reason. I just can't cope anymore with this. You know, it's fucking blatant bullshit. You know, the lies about Golovkin being ill before the fight stuff. You know, Golovkin, they even confirmed on HBO that he wasn't ill. So, you know, anything just to basically boost the pay-per-view sales. But either or, I did say the undercard was poor. Well, it wasn't great anyway. And I was, you know, we gave Brook the biggest props and stuff. And say that Golovkin wasn't all that great. Just basically kind of didn't respect him and just basically went through him and tried to smash him up. But
Andy, I thought. Sorry to jump in, but I thought. I don't know if you've said this before. Stop me if you have. But Golovkin seemed to say in the HBO interview that he thought Brook had very good distance, but everything else, you know, he said it was like sparring. You know, it's like because he was he was so underpowered, and which we all said for weeks, and you know, Hearn and all the rest of them have been saying, you know, we're going to shock you, etc., etc. We've been saying I think all of us have been saying for months that, you know, Golovkin's not going to get hurt here. Like, he's fighting a guy who's way too small. But yeah, it was interesting about the distance. He did say, like, I realised quite early on that I couldn't box him because his distance was really, really good. So I had to just sort of go in and use my strength. And I guess that's a compliment to Brook. But I don't really know where he goes from here. I guess maybe he tries to fight the winner of Canelo, Liam Smith, but then that would delay, you know, Canelo's probably going to win. That just delays the Golovkin-Canelo fight. And I think he might beat Canelo, which would completely fuck everything up, because then Golovkin will never win that. Would Kell get the middleweight title then? I don't know how it would work. It's just going to ruin everything. Oh, it's a nightmare.
Yeah, we already mentioned that actually, potentially. The loser maybe that fighting Kell Brook, because I don't think the Khan fight is going to happen. And any fight with Brook against Cam need to happen at 154 minimum. So
maybe they could do. I think based on that evidence, though, I think I would definitely favour Brook 100% against Khan. Now, I was kind of on the fence before last year when it was talked about, but I think I'd be very, very confident picking Brook.
On that evidence, I would actually take Brook to beat Canelo.
Well, yeah, assuming fair judging, you know.
Yeah, but
he's not going to get a decision. Guys, can I just ask? I know you probably talked about it, but in terms of the scorecards, Brook being up, does that mean Brook? Because there had only been 4 rounds scored. Does anyone know if that means Brook had won 3 of them?
Brook was only up on one card.
Oh, okay.
It was even on the other 2.
Oh, right.
Even, okay.
Had them winning the fight.
I was going to say even I could maybe see if you were being really, but 3-1 Brook. I just thought there's no way all the judges could have had that.
I wonder who the judge was that had him 3-1 up. Was it the American? Do we know?
I don't know, mate.
Weren't 2 of the judges Canadians?
Were they?
And then an Italian? Or was that another fight?
Ryan, one of them was that Guido guy, wasn't it? Cavalieri?
Yeah.
Guido Cavalieri.
And then 2 Canadian guys.
You can't trust them Canadians, Ryan.
Good night for Canada. Marlon Wright was sensational, as always. He's a tremendous referee.
See that Canadian judge, Ryan, that Benoit Roussel, was that him that fucking scored the Martinez-Williams fight, like wide for Williams in the first fight?
I can't remember. I think the other guy was Craig Metcalf, was it?
Yeah. He's had a few awful scorecards.
I know the referee was Marlon B. Wright, the infamous Librajo Andrade Lucian Butte referee, wasn't he?
Yeah.
And he had a similar moment, didn't he, at the end? Just seemed to prolong it endlessly. I don't know, how did he not see Dominic Ingle? He was on the same side of the ring.
I thought he was going to do a Mickey Van and like take the tail and throw it back out again.
Oh dear. I mean, Yeah, I think I've just actually seen a picture tweeted that's got Brook in an ambulance going to hospital. I don't know if that's precautionary or if he's actually like broken a bone or something.
He'll be going, I would say, at a precaution, yeah, but there's probably something wrong. What about the rest of the undercard, Sam? Just to wrap up, what stuck out to you? Obviously, Charlie Edwards just a bridge too far. Didn't really do anything in that fight, to be honest with you. Even though his corner insinuating at times that he seemed to be ahead. Anything on the undercard?
Yeah, I thought first of all, I've been sort of toying. I'm going to try and sound like I'm being clever here, but I've been toying with the idea all week of picking Ward to knock out Townend, just because I knew Townend he'd been rocked by Masha Dodd when they fought, and I thought if you're getting wobbled by Masha Dodd, then there's some glass in there maybe. And I thought I might pick Ward to KO him. It was 3-1, and in the end I just had Ward straight on my bet. But I was very impressed by him. I thought he showed that, you know, he sort of put it all together for the first time in years. And he's a very boring fighter usually, but he looked pretty good. And I hope he can push on and maybe have a few sort of meaningful fights at British level now. And then in terms of Edwards and Casemiro, I was very pleased to see Edwards lose because I just thought, you know, it's ridiculous. He was ranked 78 in the world on BoxRec at flyweight, and Casemiro's like ranked 4th. He's had 7 or 8 world title fights in his career, and you just think it was a step too far. But I'll say credit. I've never liked Edwards, but credit to him. I thought he showed a really good chin, to be perfectly honest. The shot that actually put him down was a huge punch, and he did get up from it. I thought he sort of came out of it with credit, but the corner seemed to be saying he was ahead. You know, I remember at the end of the 9th round, they were saying you're 3 rounds away from a world title. They were saying nine minutes to go, and I was thinking, seriously, like I'd be saying to him, we're going to give you one more round unless you show something different. Like, yeah. But it was clear early on he had no power, wasn't it? And that was always what we said going in. You know, he'll have no power, so he's going to have to move a lot and try and, I don't know, somehow tire Casemiro out. And I think Casemiro went.
He shouldn't have been moving. I mean, he couldn't keep moving for 12 rounds. I think Paulie called it right. Paulie said he should be standing there trying to parry his shots and slip and counter. Never done it. He just basically wanted to move and basically gas himself out.
Yeah, well, didn't have the power, did he? Didn't have any power either to keep him off.
I thought it was one of Paulie's very good points, which he does occasionally make, I suppose, which was where he said, what was it? There's 3 types of defense. There's your legs, there's the head movement, and then there's your gloves up and the parrying and all that. And he said Edwards is doing 90% legs, and that's just not sustainable for 12 rounds if you're going to win a fight. And he wasn't really trying to slip punches with his head and come back. And I think he was relying on flicking a jab out, shouting every time he threw it, as if the judges would somehow assume, oh, well, he shouted, so he must have landed. And it was just like Casemiro was so comfortable, wasn't he? He wasn't in any trouble at any point. But I have to say, look, I won't shit on him too much because I want to see more fighters doing that. I want to see more British fighters sort of taking a risk and, you know, not doing it's the carbon opposite of Callum Smith, wasn't it? Where he's just taking the safest possible string of opponents and hoping he'll get, you know, some sort of mandatory shot at the end of it. I think Edwards should be applauded for trying, even if it was sort of painfully obvious. I'd like to have seen the cards, to be honest, because I gave Edwards 2 rounds and felt that there was an argument. Casemiro won every single round, to be perfectly honest. I thought it was being quite generous to Edwards giving him 2. And I'd be interested to see the cards at the end of it, because his corner definitely seemed to feel like he was competitive on the cards.
Right, guys, we're going to hook it, so we'll get our final thoughts from each person who's still on the panel. Adam Smith seems to have buggered off, so we'll speak to him maybe tomorrow night. Ryan, first of all, overriding final thoughts about the evening as a whole, or the main event, or whatever takes your fancy, really?
Yeah, I thought the main event was really good. Haskins Hall was, you know, all right. I thought Hall won. You know, Casemiro was impressive. You know, one thing I was talking about on Twitter is I think Golovkin is going to be a lot better than Edwards. He's just like a more offensive fighter, more pro-style fighter, whereas Edwards still has a lot of amateur tendencies. And actually, one thing I found really interesting was Max Kellerman tweeted out something, and it said, after the 4th round, Roy Jones told me that Brook is giving up, and that they stopped the fight to kind of like take away from that. It was interesting. I mean, because there were certain points at the fight, you know, there was one distinct moment where Brook was dabbing at his eye and kind of looking at his corner at I think it was close to the end of one of the rounds. And
it was the 3rd round, I remember that. Yeah, he took a few steps back, didn't he? And
he was looking at his corner.
Ingle. Yeah, I remember that, yeah.
Yeah, I think Froch pointed that out. And yeah, it was just interesting that Roy Jones would point that out of the corner, that he thought Brook was giving up and that the corner was more saving face for him.
Yeah. Yeah, some very astute observations from Roy Jones, obviously, a man who's been around for many a year at the highest level. Andy, what about you? Overriding thoughts from the evening's events?
I was happy to see Casemiro basically. I mean, come into the ring unfazed. I was actually surprised at the betting actually for that fight because he's basically the flyweight road warrior. I mean, anybody goes to Argentina and knocks at the local favourite and sees his team and getting basically pelted with bottles and chairs and getting assaulted in the ring afterwards and stuff. If you can survive Argentina and you come to the UK, it's a breeze for him. I thought it was a really good performance. Basically, he was just basically teeing him up for the right hand all night, I personally thought. But other than that, I didn't really enjoy the rest of the card. Ward, obviously, he boxed pretty well, but the two Smith brothers, Paul especially, dog shit. Callum, I still want to see him step up in levels. Haskin, Hall was really, really turgid. And we know about the main event, which we've basically discussed. Big props to Brook, even though he only won one round and took a bit of a shellacking. To show that he has got some good tools against some elite level operators, but it was a step too far from him, I think, because Golovkin, just the sheer brutality, sheer force of Golovkin basically saw him through. So all in all, I would probably give the card probably 6 out of 10.
6 out of 10 from Andy Patterson there. Sam, what about your final comments?
Yeah, I probably agree with Andy. I mean, it wasn't a complete disaster, and I think, to be honest, everyone comes out of it happy, don't they? We've all got to see a couple of matchroom fighters lose, which was the aim all along. Hearn's got the ready-made excuse of the eye, or the fact that he was up on one of the cards, or the injury, or whatever it is. Brook,
we're already pushing that. We're already pushing that.
Of course,
the title reads Golovkin stops injured Brook.
Yeah, as if he got injured by accident.
Yeah, as if he was carrying an injury. Yeah, into the
mental.
ring.
They've got the excuse about the fact that everything was lined up. The excuses were laid out weeks ago. I was impressed with Casemiro. I'd like to see. Well, we won't see more of him over here, I suppose. I guess maybe he could fight Andrew Selby one day or something. But yeah, good for him. I like to see a fighter go on the road and get the win. And yeah, Haskins. I had it a draw for the record. I thought Stuart Hall was a bit hard done by. But yeah, 6 out of 10 overall. Not terrible, but not particularly great. I don't think I'll watch it back.
Alex, just before I have my final word, what do you think?
Surprisingly good main event. I thought it was really entertaining, mostly because Brook, sustains. I was going to say sustained a beating, but I think that'd be a bit harsh. But he took the punishment well, I think, and he fought back. And I shame on me. I thought he was going to fold up and just take his payday, but he didn't, and he came to actually win it. And fair play to him. And obviously, great to see Casemiro win, because fuck Edwards. But fair play to Edwards for even taking the fight again. I agree with Shep. I want to see more fighters do that. Take risks, because he's going to learn so much from that fight. Seeing a really experienced fighter, and like the way how he blocks shots, how he'll take a step back to dodge a shot or to make a jab whiff past his head. He'll learn so much from that, and if he doesn't, he's an arsehole, and I won't.
He'll never go anywhere, will he? If he doesn't.
Yeah, he won't go anywhere. If his ego gets to him, then he's a dickhead. But no, overall, fuck Sky. They're just they have to turn everything to shit. They've just got like a fucking Midas touch, where everything they touch turns into a steaming pile of shit. So fuck them.
Can you imagine can I just ask, can anyone imagine what Halling would have been like if he'd been on commentary? Can you imagine what he would have been in this? God. Can you imagine Halling in that second round? Can you imagine what he would have been saying? It doesn't matter.
Golovkin's hurt!
And Jim Watt just like screaming in the background. Oh dear. Sorry, Steve.
No, it's all right. The back in the good old days, the vintage days of Sky. I think I'll just reiterate what the guys have said. Pretty decent card. I will give Brook a lot of credit for his performance. He stood in there and he took his licks, and at the end of the day, I think Golovkin was just a bit too strong, a bit too powerful, and punched that little bit too hard. But skill-wise, maybe there wasn't as much in it on this particular night as I thought there was going to be. And I do admit, just come away, my gut feeling is I feel a little bit subdued. been telling people in work, all the casuals, been texting me, people saying, oh yeah, I'm really giving Brook a chance, buying into the Sky hype, and I've really had to stand firm and say no, he's going to get destroyed, blah blah blah. And I was really starting to get a little bit concerned at times during the fight, even before the fight, and yeah, I was a little bit subdued by Golovkin's performance overall, and there's a few chinks in the armour and a few things he didn't do great. But then, you know, everyone has an off night, and if you're smashing people to bits in front of all these fans on an off night, then you know what you're going to do when you're on an on night. So yeah, we'll give Golovkin one off this week, and we'll see how he gets on. Next time,
Steve, sorry, just on that, I don't know if this has been said before, but he said on HBO, when they asked him to rate his performance, he gave himself a 3 out of 10, which I think is probably about fair.
Yeah. Well, he's obviously realised himself as well. Yeah, he has that nasty streak. He has the sort of nice guy image as well. He didn't give Brook as many props afterwards as I thought. Maybe he was a bit tough, but yeah, 3 out of 10. I wouldn't give him any more than that, based on the high standards that he set for himself over the last few weeks, months and years, and the high standards the likes of HBO have set for him as well. Anyway, guys, don't forget, thanks everyone for listening. Real good numbers. I'm sure everyone enjoyed the fights. If you want to tweet us or on Facebook, message us with any questions or anything for the Nuthouse podcast at 8 o'clock on Sunday evening, I'm sure some of the other guys will jump on and we'll be able to have a chat about the fight and also the things that have gone over the weekend. Obviously, we had Jacobs Mora as well, and fights going on late into the night, starting within the next few hours, which we'll be able to discuss as well. Andy's getting the matchsticks on the eyes, and he's getting the old Pro Plus out, downing it with a bit of whiskey so he can stay up to watch Gonzalez. Hardcore stuff.
Fight since I've been fucking schooled. Leo sat at cruise control.
Right.
Chocolatito.
Andy loves a bit of chocolatito. We're gonna leave it there, guys, before we end up down a pathway we might not be able to get out of. Thanks for listening. We'll speak to you soon. Cheers.
Cheers, mate.